Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Divya.
Good morning, sir.
So, Divya, you are from Gonda, Uttar Pradesh, birth Kanpur.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, your optionals are philosophy,
Yes, sir.
and your Bachelor of Technology is Textile Technology, Kanpur.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. You have been selected in the Indian Railway Traffic Service. Have you joined it?
Sir, I joined it and then I took the extraordinary leave
Okay.
because I was writing my thesis at the time, and I also the mains of this year was also within 1 month.
Okay. All right. So, Divya, can you tell me something about J. Krishnamurti?
Yes, sir. Sir, Jiddu Krishnamurti is a Indian philosopher. He has been taken under the aegis of Annie Besant during the Theosophical movement, but then later he declared that he's more into psychological revolution and more into the psychical freedom exploration.
Can you name some of his works, some books which he has written, some very famous books?
So the one I coming to my mind right now is the first and the last freedom.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And there is one more notable work, sir, but I cannot recollect it right now.
Okay. So the another notable thing is Freedom from the Known.
Yes, sir.
It's a very famous work of J. Krishnamurti. All right. So since you have joined IRTS, so just a small question on railways. What is the social obligation which railway is making towards the society? Any things which you can remember? The social obligations of railways towards the country, towards the society.
So providing the affordable transport solution to
Mhm,
the majority of our population, which
mhm,
falls under the socialistic goals enshrined in our constitution.
mhm. Anything else it is doing?
So it is also a force of economic integration of our country.
Okay. And carrying the food grains and other things from one part of the country to the other. Okay. Tell me, should we have smart cities or smart people?
So my priority will always be with the smart people first. But since
Yes.
smart people, to make them smart, we need better education, better healthcare. So smart city infrastructure will also be needed. But so
Yeah.
preference wise, it is always people first.
Okay. So don't you think smart cities are going to further increase the migration from the rural to the urban areas?
Yes, sir. To some extent, this could be a scenario that may develop because of its attractiveness and the number of employment opportunities that it will be able to provide. But, sir, it also has elements of in situ slum rehabilitation, and with this, we can at least rehabilitate those people who are already in the urban areas by converting those pockets into a smart city.
All right. In China, there are restrictions on the movement of the population from rural to the urban areas. Do you think such kind of restriction should be imposed in this country also?
Sir, this is completely unconstitutional and against our democratic spirit. We should never do such thing.
All right. Now, supposing you were the district magistrate, well, if and when you get selected as in the civil services in the Indian Administrative Service, and there is this COVID is spreading to the rural areas, what measures would you take to ensure that COVID is contained in the rural areas, and what would you like to do for the rural people?
Sir, based on my experience from my own state, Uttar Pradesh, first
Mhm,
of all, I will ensure that the data is honest and truthful. And to
mhm.
collect this data, I myself will lead my team, and I will make sure that my team goes to the rural areas and provides a working functionary machinery as well as a crisis goes on properly. And once we have this evidence, then properly allocating all the resources, like using the CSC, PSC network, the NGOs, and all the resources that I can get my hands on, using all of them to ensure the tracing, testing, and treating, sir, and restriction measures in terms of transport, sir.
Okay. So last question. Should we allow students to take part in the politics in schools, in colleges and universities? And should students' elections be allowed to take place?
Sir, I am in favor of teaching our student all the activities apart from academics, including this. I myself was part of youth parliament in my Navodaya Vidyalaya education.
Yeah.
So, being in a country which is very politically charged, everybody has an opinion. It is better to teach them when they are young and can have a secular and constitutional values above their other values which may divide us.
So you are in favor of unions elections in the university or not?
Sir, I am in favor of it.
Okay. So just one thing before I leave it to you. The you have mentioned the book by Harari. Apparently you're talking about Sapiens.
So Sapiens and the latest two works also, Homo Deus
Okay.
and the 21 Lessons for the 21st Century.
Anything you would like to mention which you found very, very interesting and worth mentioning here from any of the books of Harari?
Yes, sir. From Sapiens itself, the grand idea I have extracted is it is dangerous to have single narratives in our life. Being Homo sapiens, we do not just live in objective reality of uh, trees, animals, and birds. We also have imagined reality, be it God, concept of nationalism, money, corporations, they all exist only in our mind and they can be easily manipulated. For example, in our country, we are facing casteism, communalism. So it is very important that we have diverse point of views.
Thank you, Divya. Ashokji.
Yes. Here, you have mentioned repurposing of used and leftover fabrics
Yes,
is
sir.
your hobby. Can you explain briefly what do you do?
Sir, for example, I have all the used clothes of my childhood, my siblings and parents. So I try to convert the jeans, for example, into heavy duty curtains or maybe sofa covers, bed sheets, and some decoration on them. The saris of my grandmother, she's no more. So her saris of her wedding. So I try to make a frame of them and uh, make it as a wall hanging so our memories are also alive. I try to do that because it has a larger contribution of also environmental protection, sir, because
You
textile.
are doing it alone on your own, or you have involved some others also in it?
So at this point it is just my hobby and I've
Just
learned
your
it
hobby.
from my mother, but
Hmm.
I intend to expand it once I join the administration, become more active in my work profile also.
Hmm. Okay. Now tell me, what do you think is the role of a district collector in a district?
Sir, a district collector has duties of providing security, ensuring security to the people, revenue collection, and implementing the welfare policies to the in the public interest. And sir, apart from this, serving as the platform and licensing agent between various other actors in the district at central level, at state level, NGOs, social activists, environmental activists, social health groups, um, all these things. And sir, also serving as a friend, philosopher, and guide to everybody in the district.
What is his role in revenue collection?
So when we serve as the subdivisional magistrate, so at that level, there are revenue court related proceedings and solving those disputes.
No, revenue collection. You said collector is also in charge for revenue collection in the district. So what is revenue collection? What do you refer?
Sir, at the district level, the stamp duties from the property related transactions and sir, other taxes also. Sir, I need to increase my knowledge on this front. At this point, I know this much only.
Okay. Now you are in railways, and I believe the government of India is now setting up a bullet train between two cities.
Yes.
Yeah? You know very well. Tell me, how does a bullet train achieve high speed, which other trains are not able to achieve? What
So
is it that
based,
they do to it?
so based on my readings of the Shinkansen, which is a bullet train in Japan, they use the maglev technology, that is magnetic levitation, which decreases the friction between the train and the tracks, which gives them tremendous speed. And so, if the maglev technology is not used, then by using a specially designed railway sleepers and the corridors. So, apart from this, the locomotive and others I had studied, but I am not able to recall right now.
Okay. Now, railways, have they done a good job during COVID management in the last few months? In what way can you describe?
So railways has ensured the supply chain network of the essential commodities throughout the length and breadth of our country. And it has acted as the frontline institution. And approximately 1900 people have lost their lives while serving the nation.
While serving the nation means the
The
railwaymen.
Railways Department, yes, sir, including more than 100 station masters.
So supplying food grains and essentials, and that's all, or
So,
some other remarkable work has been done by railways.
so there were also Shramik trains in the first uh, wave and also in the second wave, sir, which has ensured that the people who needed to go back to their native places reached there on time.
In the second wave, they have done another remarkable thing.
So, apart from
Supply transport of oxygen tankers.
yes, sir, right, sir. There were Oxygen Express also, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
lots of them,
yes, sir.
large number of them. Okay, tell me last, what do you understand from local self-government institutions?
Sir, they bring the democracy at the grassroots levels, and they have been ushered in and given a constitutional status through 73rd and 74th Amendment. And we have three tiers, mostly three-tier structure within that. In
What are they?
so the Zila Panchayat, and then the Panchayat Samiti, and then the Gram Panchayat. And the Gram Panchayat at the village level, so it has the Gram Sabha as its electorate, which selects the Sarpanch.
Hmm. And what about the urban areas?
So in urban areas, we have municipal corporations, municipalities, town.
Are they also local self-government institutions?
Yes, sir, they are for the urban areas. They have mayor as their head, but also IS cadre officer as the municipal commissioner.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Dagger.
Divya,
Yes, sir.
uh, you are appointed as district magistrate Goa. There is a representation from the local people to enforce dress code on the Goa beaches because there were some actually issues with the foreigners on the beaches. And locals and the foreigners, there was actually heated discussion and it resulted into fighting. So a delegation has come to you
Yes.
for a dress code for the foreigners. What will be your take on that?
So dress code for the foreigners.
Yeah,
Yes.
a minimum requirement, like formal dress code, which will
So,
be enforced to avoid conflict between the foreigners and the locals.
so the way I view it, if Goa is one of the international tourist spot of our country, and if we do this, which not the other tourist hotspots are doing, then it will not bring more tourists to the Goa, which will be detrimental to the economic prosperity of the people. And so, second, it is also against our constitutional goals of providing freedom of expression, be it in the form of the dress code, also, even to the tourist. So, I
These,
will try to negotiate and persuade the people because it is in their own benefit that they provide this liberty, they ensure this liberty.
this fundamental right is available to foreigners as per our constitution.
So, I think the article 19 is available to the citizens only, but sir, I need to make sure.
We assume actually it is not available to foreigners.
Yes, sir.
This is not their fundamental right. Your stand will remain same or it will change.
So my stand will remain same. This is the basic freedom that we can afford to them, and it is our duty to do so.
Okay, good. Now tell me, you have done your PhD in strategic alliances.
Yes, sir.
Now tell me why strategic alliances are not so popular in India when it comes to public sector companies. What is the reason?
So usually strategic alliances are preferred by the companies who want to enter into those markets where there is regulation.
Yeah.
So because our public sector companies have enjoyed a lot of resource endowment because of being attached to the state. Therefore, they did not need these resources by entering into alliances. But gradually, we see, be in terms of market reach, technology, and more customer, and even in the field of social um, services, also, we would need more alliances in the future.
Okay, you have to study on that more. Now tell me, there are centrally sponsored schemes.
Yes, sir.
What are these schemes? Tell me few schemes and how they are different from central sector schemes.
So, central sector schemes are entirely funded by the central government, and its implementation is also lies with the central government. Whereas the central sponsored schemes have some degree of arrangement of sharing of finances between the center as well as states, and the implementation more often than not lies with the state government. So,
Okay. Uh, have you read Minerva Mills versus Union of India case?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Um, tell me about this case. Why this is the most important case in the history of Indian Constitution?
So I am at this point confused. Was it about the preamble or fundamental right versus the DPSP? Sir, I
We leave it. Tell me, this preamble is part of Constitution of India
yes, sir. Preamble is part of the Constitution of India.
when it was finally decided.
So I think
That
Minerva
this is
Mills
part of-
case is one of the key cases which has led to this establishment that preamble is the part of our constitution.
which case?
So I think it is the Minerva Mills case, 1980.
So what about the Golaknath case?
So Golaknath case was about the issue of superiority between the fundamental rights and the directive principles of state policy. And at that time, it was the judiciary's verdict was in favor of the fundamental rights. It was in 1967, and then we had the um, Keshav Nanda Bharti in 1973, where it was established that it is the basic feature of our constitution, and except some Article 39 B and C, the rest of the superiority was ensured.
So tell me the last question.
Yes, sir.
Suppose you are Secretary Women and Child Development. Which legislation, which laws will be on your top priority to implement? Which are close to your heart? Tell me 3 legislation.
Sir, first would be the woman reservation in the parliament that is pending.
As Secretary of that department, you will not have actually much role to play when it comes to, you see, parliamentary issues. Tell me the state level.
So first and foremost would be ensuring that women in any state of our country has a platform to raise her voice, and this
There are laws. Tell me the acts. Which are the most important act which you feel that should be given top priority?
so please give me a moment. Let me
Yeah.
collect my thoughts.
Yeah.
So my priority would be the Maternity Benefit Acts, Domestic Violence Act, the Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act. And apart from this, though it is not woman specific, but the right to education and implementing it in a way that every girl child of our country and in my state goes to school till the secondary level and beyond that also, if possible, to higher education. And sir, also the Child Prohibition of Child Marriage Act, sir.
Then there is POXO.
Yes, sir, POX also.
Then there is something related to labor, employment of children.
Yes, sir, the Prohibition of Child Labor Act.
Okay. Thank you, Divya.
Thank you, sir.
Harishankar ji.
Divya, as a student of philosophy, can you tell me what are the 6 schools of Indian philosophy?
Yes, sir. They are Sankhya, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, and Mimamsa, Vedanta, and Yoga.
And who established Sankhya?
So I think he was Kapil Muni, but I'm not sure.
Okay, now what is the difference between darshan and philosophy?
So philosophy in Western sense is love for wisdom or love for learning, which is a quest for more knowledge and understanding about the cosmos and our lives. Whereas darshan is looking at philosophy from Indian point of view, which means all the knowledge is already there in the cosmos. We just need to develop our instincts and ourselves through various means like karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, and get that knowledge from the cosmic mystery.
No, I think you are a little wrong there. Philosophy is based on the thought process.
Yes.
Most of the Western philosophers, they think and they come out with their approach to life. But darshan is actually based on personal experience.
Yes.
The Indian sages experienced a particular set of laws in the universe, and then they propounded that philosophy. That is why they saw it. That is why it's called darshan. Okay, now tell me, what is technological disruption?
So technology, the new technologies, when they come, they change the fundamental way of our life, be it our political systems, social systems, or economic systems. And with the latest industrial revolution 4, with its technology like AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, we are now seeing this term more and more.
What is the view of Yuval Harari on this? In his book on Homo Deus, the last chapter is dedicated to this particular thought.
So he is very concerned about the dramatic rise of artificial intelligence revolution in our lives. And he says that authority will shift from the humans to the algorithms, and that it will be we algorithms will be able to hack the humans, and this has already begun. For example, the Cambridge Analytica case, where we saw how the outcome of an election has changed, and the way we read the Amazon Kindle. And he says that it is not that we are reading the books online, book is reading our emotions also, which will ultimately affect the other decisions. And free market and free elections will be a foregone choice.
So do you think a day will come when these machines or AIs or robots will take over from us and we will become their slaves?
No, sir, I do not agree with this point of view, because he thinks that artificial intelligence will be much beyond what we are today. But human beings do not have just intelligence, we also have consciousness. And no brain in our planet right now has been able to understand the mystery of mind. All the research has so far been only in the brain area.
Okay. Now tell me, what is the difference between strategic interest of a nation and the defense interest of a nation or security interest?
So, strategic interest will take into account all the macro aspect, be it defense, economy, and soft power diplomacy, and our trade, investment, science, technology, and as well as our domestic policies. Whereas security interest is a part of the strategic interest. For example, in our country, our territorial integrity, safety of our people, and the safe Indo-Pacific. Uh,
Okay, your father has been in education for a long time.
yes, sir.
Tell me, what are the deficiencies you see in school education in India?
So, based on my experience in Navodaya Vidyalaya, which was very enriching, especially in the primary schools where many of my relatives are also teachers, I believe more than the crisis of resources in terms of teachers and infrastructure, it is the moral issue that even with the available resources, people have to be motivated enough to deliver. And I'm saying this based on my own experience, because when I was in sixth standard, in my first year in Navodaya Vidyalaya, for one whole year I sat on the floor in a tat, and in no way it had a discouraging effect on me. So it depends on how we look at things.
So what do you mean by moral issue? And the delivery and moral issue, how are they interlinked?
So, like a soldier has this passion to sacrifice for the motherland, a educator, a teacher also should have a passion to deliver at most the education towards the education need of children. Resource crunch, sir, we are a developing country. It might stay with us for some time, and after the looking at COVID, it will have an impact. The
If
best.
you are, for example, if you are the education minister of India or human resource development minister, what reforms will you introduce in the school education? Give me 2 or 3 examples.
Sir, at idea level, I will try to minimize the difference between the private school education as well as public school education. And to implement this, I will try to provide as much resource as possible by going using the private resources also, like PPP arrangements, and involving more international agencies and national agencies for bridging that resource gap, more teacher training, and more gender inclusive enrollment in the schools.
Okay.
And so digital as well as the audio visual. So I will try to increase these also in my school ecosystem.
Okay. So this is more in the procedural sense, not in the content of the education. Okay. Now tell me, what is your vision of India 20 years from today? How do you see India 20 years from today?
I see our country riding the wave of demographic dividend, becoming the human capital of the world, having a peaceful neighborhood with Pakistan as well as China, and maintaining our foreign policy, which is of independence and not joining any bloc. And sir, being the 5 trillion economy and also being a unified country in ourselves, rising above this fault lines of caste, religion, language. So that is the India I
So
wish
this
and I
is
think we will become.
okay. So this is your wish list or this is the vision?
Sir, vision and wish list both converge, depends on how we act upon it.
But $5 trillion after 20 years is nothing. We are supposed to be 5 trillion in 2025.
So by 2025, now it could be a challenge for us because of the pandemic, and also before pandemic, economy was under stress. So we need to recover, and by enhancing our share in some high value chain structure. For example, in textiles, technical textile, these are the sunrise industries, agro processing. We can have better market share here.
Okay, thank you so much, Divya.
Thank you, sir.
Harish ji.
Yes, Divya, good morning.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Divya, you have done PhD in strategic alliance. Tell me, what did you learn?
Either we will be part of an alliance or else we will be competing against one. So it is always better to have a foresight and cooperate and try to have a core competency by doing what we do best, and for rest of the other activities try to make friends and alliance partners.
What was your methodology? How did you come to this conclusion? What is the crux of the outcome of your PhD?
Sir, I have looked at the emerging need of strategic alliances in an uncertain future. And so in my first chapter,
But is that at corporate level or national level?
sir, the data has been at the corporate level, but the implication could be drawn at the national level. For example, my first finding is related to the trade, and based on my simulations and literature review, I have concluded that India should join the RCEP agreement. So, second is about the environmental challenges that we are facing, and that we should try to have our renewable energy basket more with the water and solar rather than going for biofuel and the nuclear energies, because they are more disastrous than their contribution.
But to me, it looks like a very far-fetched. You study the corporations and draw conclusion at the international level. Isn't that you're comparing apple and oranges?
Sir, I have taken a data set of 17,000 firms, have analyzed their alliances, and then I've run some simulations.
Yeah, I have nothing to argue about the data and whatever interpretations you have made, but stretching it, extrapolating it to the national, international level is what I'm asking you, whether it's justified. Never mind. What was your publication? You have a paper published. What was it about?
Yes, sir. I just 2 days back, my paper has been accepted at an international journal, and it was about the diverging and converging effects of the international strategic alliances in emerging economy firms. And I have looked at how the big business groups in our country and the new startups will converge after some time, given some factors if they come into play.
And where did you publish?
Sir, it is International Journal of Strategic Business Alliances.
And what is its impact factor?
Sir, it is around 3.
3. Okay,
Yes, sir.
very good. Now, you've also studied philosophy.
Yes, sir.
It is said that philosophy and science are opposite poles. They are quite different from each other. And it's also said that philosophy is losing ground and science is gaining those ground.
Yes, sir.
So do you tell me, how do you reconcile this?
Sir, it was the existentialist revolution which came up with the idea. But the counter was that philosophy is the mother of every field and including the science. Philosophy gives the ideas about life and life forms and how we look at reality. And science tried to verify it and make it more objective than the initial subjectivity of philosophy.
Yeah, but as time goes by, we have better methodology and better knowledge base to correct, so-called correct the philosophical concepts. And that ground is now in science domain, and philosophy has shrunk to a bare minimum. No?
So, philosophy is about thinking, and we human beings are thinking beings. And everybody is a philosopher in their own way. And therefore, we try to, the initial ideas, sir, they come from the philosophy, and science try to verify it.
Yes. Okay. And now, what do you think is the place of religion in a public life?
So, religion has no objective place in a public life, it is a matter of private life.
Okay. And some people say that even nationalism is a new religion. It has the same characteristics of a religion as all religions. So why we prefer new religion, nationalism, and we give up the old one in public domain?
Sir,
First
all
of all, do you agree that nationalism is a new religion?
so the way it is playing out in our country right now, I believe our benign patriotism has morphed into chauvinistic ultranationalism, and that we can call as a religion because it has the characteristic of being dogmatic, sometimes irrational, and more so it has more social cost to pay than the social dividends.
No, but apart from our country, anywhere, the
Yes.
nationalism is a very confined concept of belonging, isn't it?
So some degree of nationalism is called essential to democracy, but it has to be the genuine love for our country and our fellow countrymen. But when it begins into something like Israel has Zionism, or the way it played out in Hitler's Nazism in Hitler's reign, or Mussolini's Italy, said that nationalism will only divide, lead to more wars, and our future generation will judge us harshly for this kind of nationalism.
Okay, what is this Trident company and what did you do there?
So it is a $1 billion conglomerate. It has 5 principal businesses, including the home textiles and the yarn, in which I have worked, and then the chemicals.
So what was your role?
So I was a frontline manager working in a spinning mill with 65,000 spindles. I was in operations department, sir. I looked after the production, productivity, and the manpower management.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ashok ji. Okay, so Divya.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So Divya, let me ask you first of all, last about 30 minutes, how did it go? How do you feel you were able to field the questions and the answers which you gave? Are you fully satisfied with them? How would you rate yourself?
Sir, on many areas, a lot of improvement I believe I have to make, especially where philosophy, like question about darshan and philosophy, it's a very basic thing, and I was not able to get it right. And sir, some factual questions like Minerva Mills case, I need to be better prepared. I need to revise the polity. And sir, apart from this, sir, I need to reflect more on it.
Okay. So Divya, let me add a few things from our side.
Yes, sir.
At the outset, let me first of all say that you are reasonably good, and I'm sure you will do extremely well in finally in the interview. Uh, there are certain areas which are your great strengths. So your delivery is very good, your expressions are good, you have a very good outward appearance in terms of your body language. You are very composed, and yet you were smiling, which is a very good thing. You were able to stick to your views and did not waver. That also is a good point in your favor. So you are in a position to take stands. Whichever point you have answer you have given, you were able to take stand. And I could see in majority of the cases, you were able to think about it and then take a pause and then come out with the answers. You were not having a knee-jerk reaction, which also is a good thing. That because the opportunity which you get is only for about 20-25 minutes, and therefore every time there is a question, you should think and then come out, which you were able to do, which is again your strength. And another thing which we noticed was that there were occasions in which opportunities came your way, and you were able to pick up that opportunity, lap it up, and come out with answers because you had good sound knowledge on those areas. So you were able to utilize that opportunity of impressing the panel, which again is a good thing. Some of the areas where we feel, and you have also mentioned, that perhaps it will be a good idea to increase your knowledge base regarding some of the Supreme Court rulings, Supreme Court judgments, and constitutional provisions. And then, of course, about the women, the question which was put up to you about the legislations you would like to implement, close to your heart, first of all, if you become a civil servant. So you initially, that was one question where you thought that you were talking about, something which is now reservation has still not taken place, that particular legislation. So what we were asking was existing legislations which are in the rule book, which of them would you like to implement? So that was one area probably you could have, probably it did not register in your mind. So one or two such positions are there, so questions are there. And then of course about philosophy and about the strategic, the future of India and the strategic alliance for this nation. So these were some of the areas where probably it will be a good idea if you slightly work hard. And what are the things which you like to improve in the school education? That also is an interesting question. Perhaps you will like to dwell upon it and come out with slightly more convincing and cogent answers. And you were very good in your subject about your textile engineering, and the thesis you were able to give out extremely well. Some of the questions regarding J. Krishnamurti and regarding, for example, the role of students in politics and in colleges and universities, that also I think was quite good. And the migration also, that question also I think was reasonably good. But having said that, so there are issues like fundamental rights, like women, like centrally sponsored scheme. The schemes also you were fairly good in giving out answers. But I think an overall just improvement in the knowledge necessary. Otherwise, everything else appears to be absolutely fine. And particularly, I don't have to say much about skills part, because skills you possess very good communication skills, and which you are the flow of the sentences was absolutely smooth, and I did not notice any interruptions or disruptions in that, which is a very good thing, very impressive thing. Some of the issues which I would like to mention, there are certain issues. It's a good thing to take stand, but do not go to the end of the spectrum. So some of the issues which I would particularly mention to you when you were asked the question about nationalism. Now, nationalism, what you answered, maybe good thing while you are discussing indoors somewhere, but in front of a panel, you need to take a slightly balanced view in the matter, without calling a spade a spade. And so therefore, issues like nationalism, patriotism, corruption, secularism, reservation,
Yes.
status of women, J&K, Article 370. So these are some of the areas where it will always be a good idea to take a slightly more, balanced view. That will, because you do not know anyone sitting in the panel may hold a totally different view. So it would be a good thing to have a pros and cons about everything. So your answer was all right, and it was a good thing that you stood up to that answer. So you were able to take the stand. But then you never know, because it is something which is it's a challenge for you, and you must get selected. And from our side, I would definitely like to say that we see a reasonable spark in you for getting selected finally, but don't become complacent. Go on improving your knowledge base. So out of the three things, knowledge, skills, and attitude, I think your attitude was absolutely fine, except that extreme views may be slightly avoided. Knowledge base you need to improve upon. Skill is absolutely fine. So ultimately, they are going to view your mental alertness. I saw that most of the places you were mentally very alert, except one or two questions. Your critical powers of assimilation, it was fairly good. And you were clear and logical, very smooth delivery, and you were able to talk about the social economic situation in the country, barring a few things like in the case of women and other things. But international affairs, as we said, and philosophy, they were the two areas where perhaps you need to work upon slightly more, and just go on improving your knowledge. And I'm quite confident that you will be able to make it very, very high in the final list of the candidate. Of course, everything will depend on your written score also.
Yes.
But interview, I think personality test, you should be able to do well. Do you have any questions to ask?
Sir, in case of issues like our Jammu and Kashmir issue, so there is one formula given by General Pervez Musharraf. So it talks about that both the nations should come together, the Azad Kashmir and the POK, and declare that as a sovereign, as a piece of territory, and have a joint government there. So can we propose a constructive solution like this?
I'll ask Mr. Gauri Shankar to speak on that.
I think you should not go into that. In an interview, there's no need to go into that. In interview, our stand is very clear that J&K is part of India, and it has to be ultimately become part of India somehow. That is how our official position is, and I think we should stick to that, because these are all speculative track to negotiations.
Yeah.
You don't know where they will lead and how they will go. And as a person sitting in front of interview board, these are the issues which a prime minister can discuss, but not a person sitting in front of the interview board.
Okay.
I would avoid that. Also, on the question of beach thing, you should have used the word the decent dress should be there. You can't say the people in the world, in the Western world, they lie nude. Will you accept that kind of nudity in our country?
No,
I think we should have answered that a decent dress should be put on. That's it. You don't have to say that no dress code at all.
Krishna Mohanji,
Ji.
you see the first question on J&K, which she is asked. To my mind, actually, she should leave this backdoor diplomacy. Actually, I mean, you see, to work unofficially back channels, but our well-known stand actually should be accepted by her. That it is part of.
Absolutely.
And that's also the resolution of the parliament, unanimous resolution of the parliament.
Second issue, I still feel her stand was perfectly okay. On Goa, dress code, she was perfectly okay.
Okay, so Divya, essentially what I was saying, which has been echoed by my colleagues also, that the contentious issues, you should be extra careful about them. So, because what happens is that you do not know any of the members there may hold a completely different or divergent view from you. So you take a stand which is the most safe stand. I'm not at all trying to say that it should be done every time, but in respect of contentious issues, you should take a view which is generally the view of the government. And where, of course, there are issues which can be debated on issues other than these issues, there you can have your personal view. But J&K is strictly the view which is the official, version. That, and I think Parvez Musharraf, there is no need to bring him into this particular thing. You should follow the line of the middle path in that particular thing.
And you can suggest, more people exchange cricket and all those kind of things and trade, which will ultimately lead to that. So it's a safe way. So you are creative enough to suggest ways of doing it without taking an extreme model of perverse.
Okay, so Divya, we will leave it at that.
Monji, please, just one more. Divya, see, you should be very clear. You were clear, but you are not very, very sure about which fundamentals rights are available to foreigners and which are meant for the Indian citizens. But in view of that, you see, dress code, the Article 2021 and else, I mean, they are available to foreigners also.
Yes, sir.
So you can support your argument with that article, that it is fundamental right even for the foreigners.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Divya, let me say at the outset that everything is hunky-dory in your case. It's quite good, and you can really do extremely well, much better than what you have done today. But your itself performance here is very, very good. I mean, and I have no hesitation in saying that if you work slightly more hard and improve the knowledge, it should be possible to, succeed and achieve a good percentage of marks, maybe in a good, band that is more than 60 up to 70. That is what I would, and we would like to see you there. Okay.
So I have one more doubt, because I have IRTS as my background now as a service, and there is this wholesale disinvestment spree going on. We have asset monetization, ambitious target, and railway also private entry now, not complete privatization, though there are apprehensions of privatization also. So if the question comes conflicting between our socialistic goals and the capitalism to which we are inclined more nowadays, my stand is more towards the socialistic way of life. But how should I go
No,
about it?
no. You see, it's very clear. You see, the early years after independence, rightfully, since the infrastructure was lacking, so therefore the government took upon through various 5-year plans in building up the infrastructure, and public sector enterprises came into being. So that period is over. Then 91 came, liberalization, LPG came, and now a situation has come on account of two reasons. Some of the public sector undertakings are not performing. Private sector has got much better knowledge, skills, and capital, and therefore they can invest. And government needs to invest in certain areas where private sector does not come. That is education, that is health. So therefore, where will the government get money? It has to sell off large number of properties, and therefore you may hold the view of socialistic thing, but here lot of water has flown, and now perhaps there is a greater necessity for government to concentrate in those areas like education, and therefore you must take this view that we need more money in order to complete that, the fiscal, raise more fiscal resources. We need to have a certain public sectors to be sold, and government is towing this line that government has no business to remain in business. And I think this is the safe line which you must say. And if you go on insisting on this, that they should not be sold and they are family silver, and it may not be the correct thing. You see, my view is very clear on this, and you can give pros and cons. Yes, there are pros and cons. Certain strategic sectors we should not privatize, but where will the government get money? You can't raise the resources up to many fold. You have to get money. For that, you have to sell the government, the enterprises. And that is why some of the even profit-making organizations like the BPCL, they are also being sold. That is the correct way.
Divya, one president of USA said that if you don't generate wealth, you will distribute poverty. So best way is that you have to generate revenues, and then you can talk about your social net, social safety net. That okay, weaker section need to be buffered with some kind of assistance. So your socialism can come in that way, but the model of generating wealth is what started after 1991.
I get the point, sir.
You see,
Yeah.
even China, a communist country, has
Yes,
total private entrepreneurship
Yes, sir.
because the Soviet Union has failed only because of this reason.
Yes.
They had state control over enterprises. Enterprises cannot be run by the state. That has failed everywhere. Show me any single example in the world where enterprises can be run successfully by the state. It's not possible. So I think the private sector is better suited to run enterprises. The
Yeah,
state,
you can,
the state
you
is
know, you
better
can-
suited to provide health, education, justice, defense. These are the issues where state should be.
Okay. Yeah.
And of course, the redistribution of wealth wherever is possible.
just add actually one sentence. Yeah, just to strengthen your argument, actually use when the parameter which Harishji told just now, the 91 onwards. I mean, use that as an argument. Study about that, and that use as an argument.
Okay. So, Divya, all the best to you.
Yes, sir.
Good luck,
Okay.
Divya. Good luck.
Good
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
An Academy. Let's crack it.